Hello and happy Friday. I thought I would try or continue with this format with some slides for you guys. So as kind of, I guess it's pretty self-explanatory what today's topic is. Weight loss stagnation. I'm going to dive pretty much right into it. What the format of it is going to be is basically a set of questions that I want someone who is in a weight loss plateau to ask themselves before they make adjustments. Why? Because especially if we do our own nutrition, or if we, are not sure if we should raise a concern to our coach or so, it's always helpful to double check yourself, because we're, of course, most of the time very easy to make too quick of an adjustment when actually we should have just given it more time. And also asking yourself, or I guess we might also be unsure about how big of an adjustment to make. Should I adjust activity? Should I just adjust food, etc.? So basically that's what I want this presentation to be. You can take notes. I will also, over the course of next week, create a check sheet for you that you can use in order to walk yourself through the questions when you're kind of doubting, oh, should I make adjustments or not? So I've split the questions into several different categories. I guess I should have clicked to this next slide. What to adjust, what to change, but basically maybe you just need to change your approach in a different way also. It could also be that you might have to pull yourself out of the calorie deficit. So of course, this is kind of assuming that you have already lost some weight. It can also be used as you are beginning a weight loss phase and you're not quite sure if your initial calorie prescription is low enough or not, essentially. But basically, it might also help you identifying when you should probably end a weight loss phase because of biofeedback, etc. So let's get into it. The first set of questions pertains to adherence. You should ask yourself, has my weekly average weight stayed the same? Not from day-to-day fluctuations. I mean, this seems pretty obvious to most people who are a little bit more experienced with weight loss phases, etc. But we really want to look at the weekly average weight as opposed to daily fluctuations. Now, with the next set of questions, we need a good bit of honesty with ourselves, asking yourself, how consistent have I really been? Have I been consistent not just 5 days of the week, but actually 7? Have I been consistent not just in the early half of the day, but also for the entire day? But then as well, have I been consistent with the way that I have been logging things? Or has it been more like a bit more eyeballing than maybe the weeks before? Or just more meals out, etc.? So if the questions, or if you have answered all these 3 questions, yes, my weekly average weight has the same. Yes, I have been very consistent. Yes, I have been accurate. Only then we're going to move on to the next set of questions. This set of questions pertains to lifestyle. Have I been sick, or has there been any other reason for inflammation? For example, an accident. It could be as simple as like basically breaking your arm, where you think, or maybe like dislocating a shoulder or so, where you don't necessarily think straight away that it's going to contribute to your inflammation. But yeah, have I been sick, or have I had a shot, COVID shot, whatever, flu shot, or has there been any other reason for inflammation? Has there been noticeably more stress, or have I been traveling? So for instance, a big project with work, or just more emotional stress, my boyfriend broke up with me, or whatever it is, or even just work travel, even if it was only a day, or sitting more in your car, that sort of travel, that could also be a reason. Next question, is there a reason why my hormones might be going a little crazy? So, for instance, if you're someone who is in menopause, or if you are, if you have some kind of like hormone panel, like basically, or an IUD or whatever, that could also from time to time need to be exchanged, renewed, that could contribute to different sort of hormones than usual. Or of course, if it's just around your ovulation, anything like that, essentially. And last question, have I been sleeping less or worse? And if the answer to any of these questions is yes, then we should really address that first. And of course, the same with the first set of adherence questions. If you were admitting to yourself, okay, it wasn't actually accurate, fix those things first. That always is kind of like a step by step. So we need to make sure we're adherent first. We need to make sure that our lifestyle has kind of been the same. So if you say, no, there hasn't been any sickness, no additional reason for inflammation, I haven't, training is a big point here also, haven't been training like extra hard, or haven't actually felt super sore, because sometimes when we're like super sore or start a new training regime, that's also a reason why our weight might go up or stay the same. So if that's a no, if stress or travel is a no, hormones are no, everything is the same, sleep is a no, then we'll move on to set of question number 3, diet and exercises. Have I been eating less whole foods than usual, more packaged things, which leave more room for error? Because, just generally speaking, the nutrition labels, they're not always spot on. They do have a room for error, and sometimes they might just be completely wrong, like as terrible as it sounds. But especially things that are not quite as common or as widespread, they're often not checked as thoroughly if they're coming from different countries. So have I been mostly eating whole foods? Have I been using a kitchen scale as opposed to just eyeballing stuff? Have my bowel movements been regular? Sometimes, when people are backed up and they haven't been able to go to the bathroom for days, that's also a reason why weight might stay up. Have I been taking new or different supplements, like with creatine, etc.? Has my activity level dropped, especially as you get further into your calorie deficit, into your dieting phase? You might not even notice that your activity level slows, or like your NEAT especially slows down. You might be less inclined to walk up and down the stairs, to fidget more, to, I don't know, like all these regular things. So basically, if all of these questions, if you're like, no, it has, whole food amount has been the same, I have been using the kitchen scale, bowel movement has been the same, activity level has been the same, now we can move on to the adjustments. But what we should consider as well, so first of all, we need to consider, if your biofeedback essentially has been really bad anyway. If you say, okay, no, actually my sleep has been terrible and so on, like I said, you should go back to that. And you should consider, how long have I been in this calorie deficit? Oh, it's been like 15 weeks already. I've been losing 12, 15 pounds or so. It might just be time to pull myself out of the calorie deficit. There's no break in work coming up either. I have a ton of stress. I've got many more projects. I should probably do something good for my body and just put this all on hold until there's a better time for me to diet again. Like personal plans as well. If you say, well, in 2 weeks time, I've got a vacation coming up anyway, maybe it'd be better to like reverse myself out of the deficit now and maintain for the vacation and then get back into it afterwards. So just consider those things. And now as you think about your adjustments, if you do wish to continue with your calorie deficit also, obviously make sure that the adjustments that you make are somewhat realistic. So we'll get into some specific examples for adjustments, but we don't want to suddenly, if you're only on 1,500 calories, now cut down another 500 calories, so you're at about 1,000. And think about how long would you be able to stick that out? Maybe day or two, but long term, is that actually realistic? And then when it comes to personal preference, this is more in regards to carbs, fats, and exercise. What's easier for you? If you say, well, I don't really want to cut more food, I would personally prefer to add more exercise, but I actually really don't have the time to do so, then you don't actually have a choice. So make sure it actually fits into your lifestyle for more than just a couple of days as well. So yeah, that's pretty much the prior considerations we should take into account. Yeah, as I said, option one would be no, deciding right now is actually not the time to continue with this weight loss phase. Everything, even though I really obviously want to get to XYZ weight, everything is pointing into the direction that I would be better off taking a break right now. Sleep, I've been cranky, I've got some plans coming up, or work-wise, or just generally speaking, I should probably pull out of this. It's more important. So that's obviously option number one. What that means would be starting a reverse diet, or if you have been dieting super, super hard, even a recovery diet, which means basically increasing the calories quite a bit right away, with the knowledge that it's probably going to lead to an increase in body fat again. So sometimes we do that, or not sometimes, but most of the time after like a bodybuilding show or so, where they really do get to extremely low body fat levels. You don't want to muck around and take 2-3 months for a reverse diet. You just know that it's going to be better for their health to increase body fat levels again. Option number two would be simply increasing energy expenditure. Right. So that's for all the people that say like, okay, I've got plenty of time. I actually really enjoy cardio, and I also don't mind, or I wouldn't mind upping my steps. And it could be as simple as increasing your step count from 8,000 every day to 12,000 every day. Or it could be saying 2 or 3 times a week, I'm going to add 40 minutes of less cardio, so something low intensity, something on a stepper. I'm just going to listen to a podcast at the same time, a conversational pace. I don't want to stress my nervous system too much more. Simply something where I could hold a conversation, as I said. That could be it. Or if you're like, well, I do want to increase my energy expenditure. Generally speaking, my body is very good at stress management, and I actually quite enjoy a little bit of HIIT. So you could maybe 2-3 times a week add a 10 or 15 minute HIIT finisher. However, I would make sure that I wouldn't include any super, super heavy weights in that, just to not tax the nervous system too much, which then in turn could increase cortisol, and therefore with the altered cortisol, it could keep our weight up or actually increase the weight. So that would be the last thing that we would want. So this is option number 2. Option number 3, alternatively, if you're like, nope, I've got no extra time, I don't even like exercise that much, I'm doing my 3 exercises or 3 strength training sessions a week and 8,000 steps a day, that's plenty for me. Or you might say, well, I'm already exercising 6 times a week and getting 15,000 steps a day. How much more should I get? Then we would really be better off just to decrease the energy intake. And this can be a small adjustment. It really kind of depends where you're at. If you're a male and you're currently in a calorie deficit at 2,500 calories, then there's no problem reducing that by 10% sort of thing, potentially, because he still has a good amount of calories to go by. If you're already at like 1,350 calories as a smaller female, we might only make a 5% decrease down to like 1,280 because you're already super, super low. So yeah, somewhere between 5 and 15%, I would in most cases not make any larger adjustments than that, unless, or well, it depends on circumstances, but that would be a really good, or probably a good rough guideline, 5 to 15% decrease. And then we need to give it time too. So like if you make the adjustment, you can't expect your weight to immediately go down the next day or two. It might take a week. So we definitely need to be patient once again, or still, but more to that in a minute. We still have another option, which would be to decrease energy intake and increase energy expenditure. So a little bit of both, if that is your personal preference. However, then I would really just go with a smaller energy intake decrease, so 5% or so, and maybe a little bit of like a couple of times or once or twice adding more cardio in, or just a small increase in steps perhaps. So of course that allows for the increase in energy expenditure to be smaller, and the decrease also to be smaller, so possibly making it a little bit easier on the body and for you mentally as well. But yeah, so the point would be to find the minimal effective dose. We don't want to slay the calories right away and just be like, oh, I'm tired of waiting, I'm tired of not seeing any results, I'm just going to cut down 500 calories, because then, you know, in a few weeks time you might hit another plateau and then another plateau. So your body is super smart, and it's going to adjust to that also. So it's better to find the minimal effective dose. Wait, be patient, tracking your weight, your weekly average weight again. So I would wait at least 1 or 2 weeks, probably more, 2 weeks if not longer, before making any further adjustments if this proved not to be sufficient. And yeah, the last point, I guess, to that would be really not to forget the power of questions 1 through 3. So like adherence. Oftentimes we can initiate a good amount, or like basically kickstart the progress again by just really dialing in the accuracy in our logging. So even the smaller things where we normally think like, oh, this is a tablespoon of something, or oh, it's just a piece of fruit, I usually get the same size. But no, put in the effort to get super accurate with that, and really double checking yourself that you're not forgetting any creamer, any sweeteners and stuff, or oils on things that you might have been missing, as well as the power of things like getting a good amount of sleep, the power of simply staying hydrated again, and stress management, which is super underrated also when it comes to regular bowel movement. So we do want to make sure that we're really addressing those things first. Even if you feel like you've hit a plateau, potentially I would say really just give it another week of having everything totally dialed in, and then see if things move on their own, and if they don't, then make the adjustments. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Actually, really not too long. I hope that still gave you a little bit of an I don't want to say insight, but a guidance, I guess, when it comes to your own nutritional adjustments, or when you're questioning yourself, or if you're doing someone else's nutrition also, just to really nail down those basics. And as I said, I will make that into a check sheet, actually, so you can go through that every time you're having doubts, and in particular also with regards to percentages of what adjustments to make, if necessary. Hopefully that was helpful, and I hope you continue to enjoy this sort of format. I'm going to upload the video into YouTube as well, in case you ever want to get back to it. But otherwise, I thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.